Hi there, Dave Blizzard here with my final video for PCC, and it's going to be about installing xampp and Joomla. Xampp is the server-side bunch of software that does database and web serving, and Joomla is the website that's going to be installed inside of the xampp framework. So we're going to start by going to a browser, and I put in xampp and Joomla, and this was the top one. You could probably go to any of these sites and find the same stuff. We're going to be installing the simplest version of xampp and the simplest version of Joomla. If you want to install everything so that it's portable and you can move it from computer to computer, there's information in here about that. You just want the portable version of xampp instead of the installed version. So I'm just going to use the default installed version of everything, and I'm going to go first to my xampp. So I'm on the Joomla documentation page, but I'm going to go find xampp. Down here it talks about what you need, what it does, and eventually down here it says here's the site for the Windows download. All the stuff is information that you might want. So on the Windows page here, we do in fact have this download. So we'll go ahead and download this guy. Should work just fine. And there it is. So all I have to do is save it. I'm going to not do that because I've already done it. It takes about 4 minutes. So I'm going to cancel that. So now we've got xampp, and now the only other piece that we're missing is Joomla. So we'll go back to our original page here where we downloaded xampp. And up at the top there's, yep, sure enough, there's download Joomla. So that takes us over to this page. And then we go ahead and click on download Joomla. And it wants to give us this file. It's a zip file, and we're just going to go ahead and save that. But I've already saved it, so we don't need to do that. And so let's go ahead and say, no, we don't need to do that. Let's just go back to the desktop, and we can see that, in fact, I've got that version of xampp right here, and the Joomla version is right below. So let's go ahead and install. So I'm going to double click on the executable, and say you'll go ahead and run this guy. Now, next thing he's going to do is ask where you want to put it. There's Bitnami. They've taken over support for the xampp project from SourceForge. SourceForge being an organization that just keeps these kinds of groups so that there's some consistency. But Bitnami is now in charge of the official support for this open source project. And so we can go ahead and do the next thing. And we really don't have to select everything. We don't need Tomcat, for instance, because it's a Java-based server. We probably don't need the mail server. We probably don't need FTP server. We do want to have MySQL because if you want to be safe, we also don't need Perl, but if we want to be safe, let's just leave it the way that it came and install that. I find that overall is safe because you don't know all of the relationships and the interrelationships of these different servers. And if you want to be safe and not cause a problem by thinking that you understand more than you do, then do what they want. So here we go. We're going to put it into xampp, and the xampp folder is in fact free. If there was anything in that folder, it would come back and say, So xampp is a good place to put it. And there we go. And we could say, we saw Joomla there. Well, we have it a different place. So here we go. And notice that it brings up this guy here. and it said we've partnered for it. Tells you all about this kind of stuff, and you can then download like WordPress or Joomla. Here we've already done it, but once again there's all these different ways of getting to the same software. Now WordPress is an excellent tool. It's more of a blog, so it's not as full and robust as Joomla and Drupal, for instance. A lot of people use WordPress, and we'll use Joomla here because, well, I'm familiar with it. And so there we go. So what is this doing? Well, this isn't doing anything. Here's what's happening down here. So the little box here that got hidden by that web page coming up is what you have to work with. So I'm going to say next. Notice that this has got nothing to do with this. We're running on the server now. And there's, once again, learning more information about Joomla. That's that guy. Or Drupal. That's that picture there. And etc. So you can do that kind of stuff on your own. But the main thing is that xampp is used to support all kinds of tools, including this is an academic tool. That's supposed to be a hat there. That's Moodle, and so there, like I said, there are all kinds of support. So while we're installing xampp, we'll take a break, and I'll be back as soon as that part. Check this box or not? Sure, we'll go ahead and bring up the control panel. And so the first time it asks us what version of English that we want to speak. And there's the control panel. So now we can go ahead and do what we need to do before we can go ahead and install Joomla. So I'm going to, well, look at all these things. I can configure things and look at logs and shells and what I need to do, administer MySQL. And that brings up a web application called phpMyAdmin. And that is the tool that's used to administer the database. And we need to make a database for our new Joomla website. And we're going to call that website Dave Retires. So we're going to go ahead and make a database called Dave Retires. So I'm going to come over here, and this is the database, right? So if I want to create, I clicked on that tab, and if I want to create a database, then I just go ahead and say that the name of the database is going to be Dave Retires. So that's the name of my database, and that's really all I need to do. And now I can go ahead and do my thing. So I'm going to install Joomla. Now it's on my desktop, so I'm going to go get it off my desktop and put it into its own folder. So I'm going to I could cut it and go over to the htdocs folder. So I'm going to place the Joomla inside of my xampp htdocs. I'm going to place it in the root folder, in the root directory, right, which is htdocs. I'm going to make my root folder for my web page, or whatever it is. So it's going to be an application, and I'm going to make it a folder called Dave Retires. That's, oops. And so inside of that guy, I'm going to paste my Joomla, and then I'm going to go ahead and unzip it right here. So that's going to create a couple of folders and files that we need. There's the administrator. That's a separate website in Joomla. We'll talk about that when we talk about how to use this stuff in class. But here's the installation folder, and that's the folder that contains the code that's going to get executed by this file here, index. So when index is fired automatically when we go to the Dave Retires folder inside of the root folder of the website known as localhost, it's going to say, oh, the installation folder is there, so therefore I'm going to go fire off the code in the installation folder. And that's exactly what we want to have happen. But we have to remember to get rid of the installation folder at the end of the installation. So let's go ahead and go to our server known as localhost, and then go to the Dave Retires folder, which is the next level below the root of our local server. So here we go. We're at localhost now. Let's go to another folder, and let's go to localhost, and it was going to be Dave Retires. And so that will go to that index PHP file, which says, oh, the installation folder's there, fire it off. So we come over here, and now we're going to say the name of the site is Dave Retires, and self-explanatory. And the administrator email will be dave@dave.org or porg. Doesn't matter. And the administrator name. Now this is going to be the super administrator for the website. And so, what shall we call it? How about we call it Dave? Dave. That's the super administrator for the website. And the administrator password would be something complicated like Dave password. Alright, you got to remember these things, by the way. And we're going to go do this again. So it's going to be Dave password. And now we have to go to the database part. And here we leave this alone, SQLi. That means it's going to use an extended version of SQL, which is available, which this version supports, of xampp supports. And we're going to use localhost, and the username we put down is root. And then we leave the password blank, and then we put in the name of the database that we just created, which is Dave Retires. Oh, we can go take a look at it, right? It's still here. We should be able to see it. Yep, there it is, Dave Retires _retires. So that's the database that we want to use. Dave Retires. And I don't really like, that's a little bit too long, so how about we do dr for a prefix for all our tables so that we don't get them confused with any of our other ones. And at this point we can go ahead and say next. And now we have to tell it whether we want to have any sample data installed. And so, yeah, I think the default English data would be good. We could do the blog, learn Joomla English. That might be pretty good too. Yeah, let's do that one. So we'll select that one, and then there we go. Email configuration. We don't want to do that. No. I think everything is pretty much set how we want it to go. You can check all these things and change the settings, and probably would make sense to look at that pretty closely. And here's the site finally installed. I had to go back and to not install the educational site, just the basic site, and this is what it comes up with. And so it tells you that you can install multiple multi-language support if you wanted to do that. And now it says that you have to remove the installation folder. So I think if you click this bar right here, the installation folder will be removed for you. So if we go take a look at the folder, we can see that the installation folder is still there. And now if we come back over here and we do this, then it should say that it's gone, and sure enough, when we look back at it, it's gone. And so now we're going to go ahead and bring the website up when we click on index. To administrate the site, there is the administrator folder and there is an index in that. So this is the website that's used to administer the Dave Retires website. So let's go take a look at that real quick. Let's go take a look at our, well, we can go to the site by clicking this. We also know we can go to the site by just saying Dave Retires. So let's do it that way. And so here we go. This takes us over to the website. And there it is. So there's the Dave Retires website, and we can go mess with that. To administer it, then we would go to Dave Retires and the administrator. And if we go to the administrator, then we have to log in, and that was as admin, and then it was Dave password. And at that point, then we can go ahead and take a look at what we can do, which we'll talk about in class. Take care.